go.
Yeah.
And now to you. It's your show, Chris Cuomo. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where right and left come to be reasonable. 100 days of the second Trump administration feels a lot longer, doesn't it? But in the run-up to our big town hall tomorrow night and all the competing agendas, I know a lot of people are doing a look back and an appraisal. I just want to lay out some facts and expose the game that the parties and a lot of pundits are playing, okay? First, any idea of a grade for the Trump administration right now makes no sense. Clearly incomplete is the only reasonable appraisal. The right is saying he's killing it. The left is saying he's killing the country. But all each cares about is advantage over the other. So the focus here at NewsNation is not on what matters to the right wing or the left wing, but to the bird between those two wings, right? The majority of us. And so, look, has President Trump delivered on his day one promises? No. Which is why he says now that he didn't mean that literally. He just, said that it would be a priority, those pledges on day one, which is exactly what I told you he would say, because I know the president and I know the game. But at the same time, this criticism that the Trump administration has kind of sprung a bunch of surprises on us as an agenda is nonsense. This is what he said he would do.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. And I will pass landmark legislation that will be known as the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. If India, China, or any other country hits us with a 100 or 200% tariff, we will hit them with the same exact tariff. On day one, I will order every federal agency to begin identifying large chunks of their budgets that can be saved through efficiencies and waste reduction using impoundment.
So, fact, he didn't just start making it up right now. He's been campaigning on this all along, and one of the weaknesses of the Harris campaign was that she did not have competing policy platforms, all right? Now, what to me was a surprise, it was that the administration would throw so many balls in the air at once. But they did, trying to end two wars and now agitating a third conflict with Iran, at the same time starting a trade war with everyone, including allies and key customers, and a war on the balance of power at home in an effort to change the composition of the country by himself. And those are the key words, by himself. And here's why. With each and every one of these agenda items, the surprise is not that the president is attempting these things. He campaigned on exactly that. And you voted for it, okay? A majority of voters who voted for him. And remember, most people I know, I don't know about you, but the people I know who voted for Trump did so for the policies, more so than for the person. These are the policies. Now, the problem is they and he are now suffering from the same problem. These ambitions, some of them are worthy to the majority of this country, but they all have the same inadequacy, an obvious lack of strategy. It should also be no surprise that the president never articulated a quality strategy on how to do any of this. His pedigree does not reflect well on his ability to manage a crisis in his personal life or as president during the pandemic. And while he brags about who's around him, whoever they are led us into a very precarious place. For example, Trump campaigned on using the Alien Enemies Act. He just didn't have people around him with a good feel of the legal sufficiency of using that law, and didn't have a plan B that would play out when he got stuck in the courts, which they had to see coming. They had to see it as a roadblock. Same with the Impoundment Act for cutting federal funds. Good talking point, not an easy lift, given the constitutional powers given to Congress, not the president. The president's main weakness to this point is arguably going it alone. Mr. Trump clearly agrees with the Project 25 agenda of expanding the executive. But again, it's a good talking point that doesn't make it legitimate policy. Trump can sell himself as a deal maker, but he has not shown it with the people he needed to make a deal with to get most of this stuff done. Congress. He has passed no large-scale legislation despite controlling the numbers. I was surprised by that. He's only had 5 bills that he's signed. 2 of them were related to culture war issues. One was about deepfake porn, and the other one was the Laken Riley Act, which, look, one is too many. When someone who's not here legally kills someone, especially someone like Laken Riley. But if you think that that is the root of our homicide problem in America, you're kidding yourself. That's one of the 5 priorities. If that's a deliverable he wanted, fine. But there are other things that seem to matter a lot more that he needs Congress for, and he's nowhere on them. And I'm not just talking about the tax cut. You want to change how we vet asylum seekers in this country or illegal entrants? Congress can do it, not the president alone. You want to cut agency funding in a real way? Congress can do it, not DOGE. DOGE is a great social media play, but they have no constitutional mandate. They are just an extension of the executive. And as such, they have not saved us a dime because they haven't taken it to Congress. As a result, there's been more chaos than consequential change. And that's not me saying it. It's you, okay? Americans are being polled about job performance thus far. Most are fearful that his tariff policies and lack of follow-through will cause a recession and raise inflation. The tariff trauma, right now, that's Trump's legacy. He did this himself, without Congress, without his party, maybe even without legal authority, because, Congress gives the president a lot of their tariff power, and he's supposed to be using it for emergency situations. He may have caused one, but I don't know that it started as one. The damage to the markets and the marketplace may not be fixable by the president alone anymore. He knows that. He knows that the economy is not going the way he wants it to. And it's not just because of China or our allies, but it's not looking good for his voters. So, another critical choice. Instead of taking the hit and saying, as FDR cautioned, try something. If it doesn't work, admit it frankly and change course. Instead of doing that, what may be his most consequential decision is what we saw the president do today. He's doubling down.
We're here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration. We're ending the inflation nightmare, the worst that we've had probably in the history of our country, getting woke lunacy and transgender insanity the hell out of our government. The number of illegal border crossers released into the United States is down, listen to this please, 99.999%.
I don't know about the numbers, but look, immigration is certainly the saving grace for the first 100 days. Now, in terms of the border, in terms of what he promised to do, and again, I've been transparent with you. I do not believe everyone who comes into this country illegally is the same. Bad hombres, fine. You don't see me advocating or going to El Salvador to fight for an MS-13 guy whose wife says he punched her in the face. But the idea that when we're 500,000 workers short, and there are communities all over this country, you probably have one that you're living in, where people who didn't come here legally, they didn't come the right way, but they're doing all the right things here. I think the idea of vacuuming them all up when we are at a deficit of who we need doesn't make sense, but I'm not the president. He is, okay? And that's what he's going to have to figure out. But I got to tell you, they're cheering for him there because it's a rally, right? But Michigan and the people there are about to take a hit. That's why Trump signed an executive order on the way to that speech, changing the tariff structure for car manufacturers. U.S. car companies can now get reimbursed as much as 15% on the 25% that they pay on foreign auto parts. The same companies that donated millions to Trump's inaugural fund came back. I reported to you on this when it happened on the 14th of April. They came and said, hey, you're hurting us now. My question to the president is, are you a populist or not? You told us there's going to be pain. You said, hey, those pigs at the trough, they've been there long enough. There's going to be some pain, but we got to do this to get it to the right place. So then why are you stopping just when the pigs come back to you? Why? Because they donated? Because they're the rich guys? That's not what a populist would do. And as for cleaning up how we do business in D.C., Don Jr. is opening up this club in Washington, D.C. I couldn't believe this, I'll be honest. $500,000 just to get off the waiting list. The club is viewed as an opportunity for the wealthy to get influence in the Trump administration. Look, I don't care what the law says, okay? Do you think this passes the smell test? A club for wealthy business and international business people in D.C. run by the Trumps? Really? With all the people struggling and the need to focus on so much in this country that needs change, you really got to be trafficking in crypto coins and having dinner with the main holders and run a business like this? You really need the money? 100 days in, we don't know where any of this ends, but we do know where we are. And no one is really that happy about it, certainly not as happy as they want to be. And that's okay. Trump went about changing trade and our economic reality in a controversial way, but the ambition is worthy. The distance between the top and everybody else doesn't make sense to most of you. The majority is disgusted with only the top growing in the right direction. How can it be that billionaires are the fastest growing socioeconomic group in a country like America? How? A reminder to the administration, then we'll get going here. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. St. Bernard of Clairvaux said that. It sums up the trouble we're in as a function of worthy ambitions. I think what Trump is trying to do with trade, with China, with what should be happening here with the workforce, with the industrial base, with the technology base, are all worthy ambitions, okay? But having good intentions is not enough. You have to have plans. You have to make adjustments. How you do things matters in America. And the way we have gotten to this 100 days is not going to get us where the president promised to take us or where this country wants to be. Now, how do you deal with the Trump presidency? What needs to change? A senator whom I am a big fan of, okay, gave a big speech on the floor of the Senate today. Independent Senator Angus King of Maine. He said that his colleagues have to take back the mantle of responsibility. You know, the Senate has basically become an echo of the House. It's not supposed to be that way. They were called the most deliberative body in the world for a reason. He says we are in an unprecedented constitutional crisis, and the Senate needs to step up. Here's some of what Senator King said today.
This president is engaged in the most direct assault on the Constitution in our history. To those who like the policies of the president and are therefore willing to ignore the constitutional means of effectuating them, I and history can only say, watch out. Today, the target may be the undocumented or federal workers, but tomorrow, perhaps under a different King president, it could be you.
Joining me now, independent senator, caucuses with the Democrats often, Angus King. Senator, it's been too long. You look great. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Chris. Good to be back. And you hit a lot of the important points, man.
Thank you, Senator. I love you. I don't love your argument. Here's why. Is Trump testing the constitutional authority of the executive? Yes. Is there overreach? Arguably. But that's what the courts are for. Why is it a crisis? Why isn't that hyperbolic?
I don't think it is a hyperbolic. And again, I think the important point is the point that you made repeatedly in your opening, and that is reasonable people can argue about and debate the various policies, whether it's immigration or trade or downsizing the federal government. The question is, who gets to make those decisions under our Constitution? And here's why it's dangerous, Chris. It's dangerous because if you allow the power of both the executive and the legislative to end up in the hands of one person, and I don't care whether it's the Archangel Gabriel or Donald Trump, it's just downright dangerous. History tells us that concentrated power in one set of hands inevitably will be abused. And that's, James Madison said, if you put the legislative, judicial, and executive power in one set of hands, it's a perfect definition of tyranny. And that's what's worrying me. All the news, all the things you're talking about, the tariffs and the deportations and DOGE and all those, we're under this deluge of daily news, but we're missing something much deeper that's happening that I believe everybody, including Donald Trump supporters, should be concerned about, and that is the collapsing of our constitutional structure, which is the basis of our freedom.
I'm with you, sir.
The division of power. They divided power on purpose.
I'm with you, Angus.
And the reason was that concentrated power is dangerous.
I'm with you. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I get it. I just don't see it. Yep. He didn't. The Supreme Court went 9-0 against him. Told him to facilitate it. This guy, I don't, your colleague Chris Van Hollen going to El Salvador to plead this guy's case. I think you stick with the principle, but they made a decision. He's got to follow it. Where's the crisis?
Well, the courts so far have stood up. I think he's lost something like 120 cases so far in temporary restraining order. There was just another one this afternoon that he has to fund Radio Free Europe, but the Voice of America. But the point is, we shouldn't have to rely on the courts. This is Congress's responsibility. Our oath, we take an oath when we start the job that says we will defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what's happening is the wholesale movement of power from the legislative to the executive. And you went through all the things, and like I say, we can talk about what should we be doing about immigration, what should we be doing about tariffs. But if you have one person making all those decisions, tariffs are a perfect example. Congress has the power of tariffs. Mm-hmm. They delegated it to the president years ago in an emergency. Well, this guy's defining an emergency as whatever he feels like. I mean, there's no emergency at the Canadian border. I can tell you that. I live in Maine. And it's just downright dangerous. And you get this very herky-jerky policy on trade that didn't go through any discussion, any debate, any compromise, any review of all. It's just all in one man's head, and we've learned from that why that is just not a good way to govern the country. And then he's talking about taking away the licenses of CBS because he didn't like something on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a path to tyranny, man. When you start talking about compromising the free press, all you got to do is look at Hungary.
Senator, I'm with you. I'm with you about it if it were anybody else. We both know that this man is uniquely not connected from what he says to what he does, okay? If it were you and you were president of the United States or even senator and you were saying these things, I would be all over you like ugly on a gorilla because you say things and then you do things. The connection with this guy, I mean, it almost gets to the point of feeling that it's gratuitous, that if you really think Trump is going to pull the license of CBS, he's not going to do that. He'll probably sit down with 60 Minutes and yell at him in an interview. He is not serious when it comes to these things, and I get it. I get the fears. But are you worried at all with exaggerating the threat and losing the majority?
I don't think so. Listen, I'm trying to. My wife says I'm a combination right now of Paul Revere and Chicken Little. I mean, my job is to alert
as only
people
a wife
what's
can.
going on. Yeah, but my job is to alert people to what's going on. And Chris, again, this isn't about Donald Trump's policies. Some of them I agree with, a lot of them I don't. But it's about how he's going about doing it. For example, just shutting down AID. Shutting down the Department of Education, shutting down the Consumer Protection Board, shutting down Voice of America. All of those programs were created by Congress.
Right.
The president, you know what the president's responsibility in Article 2 is? It's really simple. One phrase. To see that the laws are faithfully executed.
Right.
It doesn't say to see that the laws he agrees with are faithfully executed.
Right.
And he thinks an executive order is a law. It's not a law. And then he decides what he's going to spend the money on. But an appropriations bill passed by Congress and signed by the president is a law.
Yep.
And he doesn't have the right to go back and decide, well, I don't like this program, so we're not going to spend money over here.
But that's what the courts are for,
give
Senator.
the money over here to research.
But that's what the courts are for. So
listen, I think that's a cop out, man.
Well, then what can you do?
And what if he now? Well, the next level is, what if he defies the court? I mean, you mentioned the Supreme Court ruling and he hasn't done it. He hasn't done anything about it. He hasn't responded. He's sidestepped that order of the Supreme Court now for 2 or 3 weeks. And so I hate to rely on the courts because they have an important role to play, and they're playing it. But I think it's our job to stand up for the Constitution and the division of power, which is what the Constitution was all about. It was the reason it was passed. They didn't want a king. And we're sliding in that direction. If you let the president decide which laws he's going to execute, which laws he's not, which appropriations, where he's going to spend the money, and then he starts threatening law firms and newspapers and television stations, that's dangerous stuff. And I'm just worried about where it goes. The biggest check is the election, but the next election isn't for 18 months.
Right, I hear you. Senator King, look, there are a lot of people who share your concerns. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of it, but the job is to bring on voices and let the audience decide where they want power invested and how they want to pursue their own interests. So thank you, Senator Angus King. I miss you. It's great having you on. You are a fair broker of what's happening in this country, and you're always welcome anywhere I am.
We're going to be back with you, Chris. Great to have an opportunity to talk.
Senator King, I appreciate you very much. Say hello to everybody up in Maine. Take care.
Sure will. Thank you.
4 minutes and 35 seconds. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Well argued, coming from a good place. Angus King checks both of those boxes. Now, should there be a price tag on access to the president? Man, this club stinks. I don't know why they're doing this. I'm not saying it's illegal. You may have a right to do it, but does it make it right to do it? A new business venture just down the road from the White House, Don Jr., $500,000 to be a member, a businessman's club, a gentleman's club, where people who have business, maybe before the United States government, join the Trump Club. Really? Governor Chris Sununu. He knows the smell test. He knows Trump. He knows what's right, and he joins us next. To get ahead of them, especially when there's nothing you can really do about them. I don't think we're in a constitutional crisis. Well, what if it becomes one? I don't know. Then we'll see what happens when we get there, because there's nothing you can do now anyway. All that said, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut has a point about something the Trump clan just did.
Donald Trump and his family members and backers are opening a new club in Washington. It's called the Executive Branch, and it is corruption on steroids. The Executive Branch is a private club, and reportedly the initiation fee is over $500,000. They are advertising this club as the place where CEOs and foreign oligarchs and tech bros can come to get secret access to Donald Trump, Donald Trump's family, and members of the cabinet.
I don't know about corruption, okay? I don't know about what's legal. I don't know about what the sell is. But the smell test matters, okay? Especially in politics. And is this really what needs to be going on right now? Is starting a club where those kinds of people who are in Washington, D.C., that's where the club is? Really? Former governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. You know, Gov, is this the biggest thing going on? Of course not. And it's not the main thing I want to talk to you about. But if you were doing this, I'd call you up and being like, Chris, what are you doing? I mean, this just looks bad. Oh, no, it's my brother. It's my son. It's somebody else. This is a bad look all day long, Gov, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a bad look, but not unexpected for Trump. So, I mean, I'm not trying to justify it. I think you're right. I think it smells bad, but, you know, Trump sells his watches. He already has a club called Mar-a-Lago, by the way, right, where people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to be a member.
Access. Yeah.
But let's not forget, for Washington's been doing this forever. The Capitol Club, the Met Club, which has been right next to the White House. I mean, these are high-end, exclusive places where the Washington elite have paid for access to a whole host of individuals, whether it's the presidency or the senators. So this isn't necessarily new. To your point, it's not a good look. It's completely unnecessary by the Trump family to be doing this. I think they're just looking to kind of create Mar-a-Lago in Washington, D.C. So it's on brand for them. I'll give them that. But to your point, it's something that Republicans have to kind of answer for, right? People almost expect things like this from Trump, but now every Republican is going to get the, well, what do you think of this? And of course, it doesn't really pass the smell test. It's not really necessary. But let's not fool ourselves. Washington is built on paying for access,
100%.
Which is why I ain't going and a lot of people are leaving, right?
100%, although you know how I feel about you in that decision, but we got a long way to go. Look, what I'm saying is this. If it's I'm doing what everybody does, okay, good, then just say that. But don't tell me you're going to drain the swamp. Don't talk to me about the deep state. Don't talk to me about breaking the culture in D.C. when you're just going to cash in on it.
Exactly. Now, look, do I think Trump's going to show up there and you're going to pay to sit in a room? And no, that's not the way it's going to work at all. It's mostly kind of a money grab for a lot of his supporters and the folks that are already in D.C. And it's going to be a big money grab for them. And then in 3 years, it'll be desolate. They'll sell it and it'll turn into something else, right? What I hope doesn't happen is this becomes, the next president does it and the next president does it. I don't like that idea. But look, this is why I love the idea. And I don't mean to go too far afield. This is why decentralizing Washington, getting the power and the control and sending it back to the states is exactly what needs to happen, because the places, I don't like the word corrupt either, but the places there's so much money that drives so many of the decisions here that the average American just doesn't have access to.
Some populist. So Angus King is a fair broker. Okay, he's from up in your neck of the woods there in Maine. Not a hysterical guy. Okay, I mean, you know who Angus King is. I don't think we're in a constitutional crisis. I think Trump is pushing it. I think Trump is trying to do as much as he can by himself. I think he is out over his skis, and I think he's going to lose a lot of litigation. But does that mean we're in a crisis?
No. I thought Angus is a great guy, a terrific guy, but you're absolutely right. There's no constitutional crisis. What Trump is doing is very clear. He's saying, look, for 25 years, Congress and Senate have slowly become completely ineffectual. Oh, we have the power of the purse, but you don't manage it. We have the power of the rules and the policy, but you don't do it, right? They're quasi-useless as a body. So what he's saying is, okay, I'm going to push all these executive orders. I'm going to push the limits of power. And where, to your point, where the court pushes back, they'll accept that. But then what that does is very loudly, it puts a huge spotlight on Congress and says, now do your damn jobs. If the courts aren't going to let me do it, then you have to do it. And so he's putting a spotlight and a lot of pressure on Congress. And you brought up a great point at the beginning of the show. First 100 days, where's the big bills? I think 100 days is a little fast to expect some big bills. I think you'll see some of these rescission bills come probably in the summer or late fall, with that kind of encapsulate a lot of what DOGE is doing, encapsulate a lot of the savings that they can't just do with executive order that has to be passed by Congress. And then the pressure is really going to come. Because right now, Congress is so partisan. My argument is you can always go get Democrats to help get what you need done. I don't know if they're going to have enough Republicans to push these bills through. So where's the immigration bill? I think we've talked about this before. To your point, there should be a huge bipartisan effort on an immigration bill that makes the port of entries bigger, that makes them more robust, that makes them more streamlined, that allows an easier access of all these legal immigrants into our country, which we need for our workforce. That's a very positive thing that everybody should be working for. He did a great job closing it, but Congress, get off your butts and do it right. This immigration reform bill that we've talked about for 30 years and gotten nothing out of. So they've become completely ineffectual. So he's going to push the limits, and he's going to make the courts tell him no, and then he's going to turn to Congress and say, now get off your butts and you guys do it.
The main thing that the men and women who keep us safe on the border say they want, and those running around the country for ICE, change the rules. Change the asylum standard, change the processing, change the due process qualifications for illegal entrants so that we can be more expeditious, and all these other rule changes that they want. You need Congress. See, Gov, this is why you got to run, by the way. All right, I'll take care of it tomorrow when I see you. Thank you very much for joining us for the town hall.
Thanks, brother. Be good.
I appreciate you. It's not going to be easy. You got Bill O'Reilly, you got Stephen A. Smith, you got the President of the United States, and then you got the biggest mouth in the East here with me. So you're going to have to fight for your right tomorrow, but you'll get in there.
You got a lot to manage. You got a lot to manage on your plate. You can do it. As I was saying to Dusty earlier, just make sure you hit an extra set of leg day or something, whatever gets your blood going, because it's going to be a big night, but it's going to be a huge success. Everyone should tune in.
Roids. Gov, roids. It's all roids. All right, I'll see you tomorrow
whatever
night.
Whatever it takes.
4 minutes and 30 seconds. Coming up, Congress held a hearing on those unidentified drones we heard so much about. It's kind of a little bit of a heartbreak, right? We wanted to believe that the Biden administration couldn't get its act together, but the Trump administration would give us the goods. And then they came out and said the same thing. Look, our military bases are not safe. We keep hearing this from members of the military, all right? So who's doing this? A former Pentagon investigator and whistleblower has the answer. Next. We saw over the military bases in Jersey and the rest of the country. And also, what do you want to hear at the town hall tomorrow night? All right, call in. We're going to do calls in the next segment, and that's what I want to talk about. And try to give me questions. Don't just tell me how you feel about everything, all right? We can do that tomorrow night. So this meeting in Congress was scheduled on UFOs and drones for today. Last night, it was suddenly postponed. I don't think there's anything suspicious about that. I think they just don't give a damn. Instead, a House subcommittee hearing was held to investigate all those unidentified drones that were flying around the bases. One of the witnesses issued a dire warning I want you to hear.
The homeland is no longer a sanctuary. And should our adversary choose to employ drones for surveillance or even attack, we would not be prepared to adequately defend our homeland and only marginally capable to defend our military installations.
See, that's the concern. The administration has said since the mystery drones were FAA approved, suggesting that they could be part of a U.S. Government program so that, they understand it. But a lot of experts in this area are scratching their heads, including Luis Elizondo, led the Defense Department's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It's good to see you, big man. Thank you for doing this for me.
Chris, always my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Doesn't pass the smell test, what I heard today. Tell me why.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. Look, we've been saying now for years, ever since, frankly, September 11th, that we do not have complete U.S. air domain awareness of our skies. The bottom line is we do not know what's in our skies all the time. And this hearing is yet another glaring example of the truth. We had two administrations previously say, well, these are all authorized flights and FAA is aware of them. And back in November, FAA themselves had said that, oh, yeah, we know what all these flights are. The reality is Senator Cory Booker himself from New Jersey spoke to the FAA. And on the record, he said, no, guess what? FAA does not know what all these drones are. And furthermore, you do not close sensitive military installations and airspace because you have an authorized drone flight. That does not make sense. And you heard it today. Again, we simply do not know what's in our skies. And Chris, let me add this. Do you realize now, over the last year and a half in Ukraine, that drones have been weaponized to such a degree that there are more casualties now caused by drones than artillery for the first time in warfare history. So think about now the vulnerability of our country as these quote-unquote drones, mysterious drones, fly completely unchallenged. We still don't know where they're coming from. We still don't know who's behind the wheel. We still don't know where they're going. This is a big problem, and we've known about it for a long time.
What is your major suspicion about what they're not telling us?
Well, I think the reason why they're not telling us is because they simply don't know. And that is a problem in itself. We've made recommendations in the past that there should be some sort of national strategy and some sort of national intelligence estimate done every year, like on other hard targets. And I think this country deserves to have a similar apparatus. Imagine a national intelligence estimate every year that gets promulgated, and then some sort of national strategy that follows it to try to help us figure out just what's going on and plug some of these intelligence gaps.
We both know how this is going to go, and it's a God forbid, and I hate saying it, but there's only one way that this changes. One, you get a big leaker. Two, you have a God forbid. You have a God forbid where something happens that didn't need to happen, and then they're going to take action. And that's what I don't want it to come to.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you. I mean, I think that's the worst case scenario, right? Is that we have some sort of catastrophic event that forces us to do something when, frankly, we've known about the problem all along.
I know. I don't like it. But, you know, this is one of those deals where they only give a damn if they can blame the other side for it, right? Everything's all partisan all the time. Yeah. And if this isn't on somebody's watch, but when it happens, the other side will go crazy about it. Mr. Elizondo, thank you for keeping us honest on this and keeping us informed. I'm always a call away. It's good to see you.
Always my honor and privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, 4 minutes and 15 seconds in the break. Get your question What do you want to hear tomorrow night? What do you want me to ask President Trump? I probably won't take your advice, but I want to hear it. 844-968-7720. In truth, I got to hear what Bill and other people are asking him. Whatever I ask is going to wind up being a follow-up. I'll give you a hint, a lead. Writing, the road to paradise is paved with thinking twice. Bella, my daughter, wrote that in a song. And that really does capture for me where Trump is, where he wants to take us in terms of this economic realignment and trade realignment. There's some real issues there that appeal to the majority, but you got to get it right in terms of how you do it. Otherwise, this can go so wrong. I never thought we'd be in this kind of economic pickle 100 days in.
Nobody did. But he said he was going to go big, and he went big. Let's get to the callers. Let's go to Jerry from Utah.
Jerry, what's your question?
Hi, Chris. On your town hall meeting that you're going to have tomorrow, are you going to be right forward with him like you are to your audience, you and Stephen A. and Bill O'Reilly? Be point blank, give advice, or ask the tough questions?
Well, look, it's a town hall, okay? It's not a confrontation. He's on the phone, right? So I only have one mode. I'm me. I'm 54 years old. I've been doing this almost 30 years. I'm not a poser. You know what I mean? You know who I am. You know what I am. He's going to get what he gives. And I'll be listening to what the president has to say to Bill and to other people in the audience. And I'm gonna riff off of that and try to clarify things and get him to make a clear point about what he's about and why he's about it. So this isn't an exhaustive interview. You got to have your expectations in check. Next.
Okay, next, Mr. Positive, Greg. Quick.
Oh, how you doing, big man? What do you got?
Oh, my God, Chris, you're everywhere. WJR is telling the world about it. Real quick, I want you to ask Trump. What would it be? Would he like to go against Stephen A. Smith as president of the United States? What say you, boom shakalaka? Go for your dreams.
First of all, Mr. Positive, the moment I do that, everybody on the left would crush me for suggesting a constitutional, diversion because he can't run again. But thank you very much for mixing it up. Stephen A. would love that question. He'll probably ask it himself. Next.
I'd like to hear the answer to that, though. Let's go to Sharon from Dallas, Texas.
What you got,
Chris,
my friend?
This is Sharon.
How you doing?
Hey, Chris, this is Sharon. Whenever Trump ran, he ran saying that he was going to give a tax cut for the middle class. We've yet to see that yet. Would you ask him about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to say it's coming, but he has not used Congress. I mean, this is a real choice. He believes that he has power to do a lot of things unilaterally that he signed more executive orders than Biden did in his entire administration. He's like 4 times as many as Trump did in his first administration at this point. So he's made a clear bet. It is surprising to me that he hasn't used Congress more, although what's going to be his answer? Congress sucks is going to be his answer. They won't do anything. I want to get things done. And I think a lot of people would vibe with that. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Next.
We're laughing because we're playing video of Trump dancing, and we want to know where he learned those moves from. I think that's
Queens,
the question.
baby. 718 strong.
That's right. Real quick, Matt from Los Angeles.
Matt, what's your question?
Hey, Chris, something I want to learn tomorrow night. Is President Trump failing us, or is Trump derangement syndrome holding us back?
That's interesting. Well, that's not something that he's going to be able to tell us. He certainly thinks everything is Trump derangement syndrome. Although I believe in Trump derangement syndrome, I just believe it exists on each fringe, right? I mean, because you've got his faithful where he can do no wrong. They treat him like he's Kim Jong-un, as Bill Maher said. He's right about that. And then you got the left fringe where they believe, everything's a crisis. He's a despot in the making. And I get why he scares the hell out of some people. I do. And I wish he wouldn't say things that he does. I don't believe he means them. People say, you're an idiot, you're gullible, you've been red-pilled, whatever BS they want to say. Or maybe I'm just a guy who grew up around him my entire life. And I know the game of politics, and I know when somebody is just talking smack versus something they're going to act on. Do presidents usually talk that way? No, but it's also part of his appeal. Next.
Oh, we don't have time for another question.
What?
But
Don't silence me.
I will give the audience a little behind the scenes. I was at a wedding. I don't remember what year it was. It was Star Jones and Donald Trump. Yeah. This is how far we've come. And Hillary Clinton were seated together, and they were having a blast together. This is how far we've come.
Let me tell you something. That ain't a lie, and it is like that more often than you would think. These people fight on TV, and they shake hands off it. That's why we don't do that pundit thing. We don't do professional yappers here. We do players. I got to jump. We'll be right back. Have on it, which is always the battle in television. So you got Bill O'Reilly, you got Stephen A. Smith, you have the President of the United States, okay? Then once we talk to him about what's happening, now we're going to get breadth of perspective. You got to load it up with people who understand and vibe off the administration because you're looking at the administration. It doesn't make sense to set it up all with adversaries. So we got Secretary Bobby Kennedy. We do have James Carville. We got podcaster and business aficionado Patrick Bet-David. Okay, we may have Anna Paulina Luna. We have Jamie Raskin on the left. Okay, and we also have you. All right, you're going to send in your questions on Twitter to hashtag Cuomo Town Hall, and we'll try to answer some of them. All right, and look, this is not about making anybody happy. I don't believe that when everybody's upset at you, it means you're doing your job. I think it just means you're getting your ass kicked. But the point is, we're going to get full perspective. You're going to get a full complement of different ideas about what's happening in this administration, but most importantly, what needs to happen. See, I think it's too easy to say, I like it, I don't like it. It's what needs to change and how do we get where we want to be. That's what we're doing at NewsNation, and Leland Vittert takes the coverage right now.
All right. You think it's fair, Cuomo, to put so much pressure on the first 100 days?